Hey, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about philosophies I've been thinking about recently. So the first one is skepticism, the art of not believing anything, almost being there. It's like almost getting pushed to the edge, but then a shortcoming happens. I think skepticism is kind of the main trolley for conspiracy theories. I think humans are innately always skeptical. Whether that be a plan they're going through, a job they're looking for, anything really, even approaching relationships. All humans have this innate ability for skepticism. Skepticism invites distance, and distance separates chaos. If it weren't for us being skeptical, we'd probably be not as advanced of a civilization as we are. And that's just in terms of survival. We probably wouldn't survive as well as we are today. Skepticism is probably one of the most important things that humans possess, more so because it's a safety net. It's like a fail-safe. I've always been skeptical when believing anything. It has always been something that even if I wanted to wholeheartedly, I still would have some sort of withdrawal from the situation. And even if I go through with a mistake, the skepticism is fundamental, regardless if you continue. Another philosophy that I was thinking about earlier was, and hopefully I don't butcher this word, but it's existentialism. Existentialism, which effectively argues that there's no innate meaning, value, or purpose in life. It's just responsibility and context. Nothing matters, nothing really means anything in any depth, and everything is just a existential existence. I think that right there is kind of what scares people the most, especially crescendoing that from death. The existential threat of any human always comes from scarcity and fear. But I do think fear is taught. And a reason why I think fear is taught is because a lot of people, when growing up, watching something, a show, TV, something, they often are watching something like a Tom and Jerry. And in those shows, a character is often either scared, haunted, fearful, vengeful. And a lot of these tropes are what plant fear into people. So often you will find people not understanding that they're fearful and watch why they're fearful. And I think an example of this is raising someone to not have fear. We as humans have an innate ability to survive, but our reaction is taught. We still experience pain, and we don't want to feel pain, but the reaction to pain is taught. If your reaction to being scared was to attack, which some people's are, your flight or fight is probably more different than most of the population. A lot of people's reaction to being scared is fear. Some people are good at keeping a level head and maybe they'll freeze or they'll stop, but most people have an innate scarcity or feeling of fear. And I think that breeds the most in existentialism. Existentialism. The fear of the unknown or the lack of purpose is people's disinterest in life. Moving on, we have, I might butcher this as well, Salopism. This is the thought that you, the observer right now, is the only mind in the entire universe, and everything around it is just a projection of everything that it sees and experiences. TikTok, YouTube, Twitter, Snapchat, Instagram, the library, school. Any and every person you've ever seen or interacted with doesn't actually exist, and it's just a projection of your mind. A scary thought, but empirical, or not empirical. It's a scary thought because that means that you're basically a part of a script. You're not in the universe. The universe is in you making the play. You just are experiencing the actor. I've always thought about this as a kid, but I never knew that there was an actual philosophy behind it. I guess there could be a difference Something that I also pondered, and this was long ago, but the possibility that that may be the case, but in actuality, each person is in a different universe. And what I mean is, we have an equal and opposite reaction to the same things, but those things are completely different in our reality, individualistically. And by that I mean, if you ever seen Doctor Strange, in which he travels the multiverse, in the multiverse of madness, there's a scene where American Chavez gets scared or fearful, and she changes universes. And she did so often that each universe that she appeared in was a totally different law of physics from totally different arrangements of life. And that's kind of my thought process on it, is that we could all be in each different universe, and our examples may only be maybe a consensus beyond dimension. So for example, the fourth dimension is the only coordinate that we all individualistically have together, space and time. But the laws of physics are completely different. So when I say meet me at the Twin Towers on September 11th, 2001 or 2000, I don't know when they crashed, I think it was 2000. In your universe, it's possible that the Twin Towers is a tunnel underground, right? As an example. And you could be made of paint. But for me, I am this autonomy being. And even though we are in different multiverses, our consciousness or coordinates are both the same. And this also comes down to scientists understanding that time has 3 dimensions, but fundamentally, the existence of only one conscious being in the universe is a pretty interesting concept. Another philosophy I've been thinking about is postmodernism. Postmodernism is basically rejecting science and questioning whether real science is correct. This sort of ties closer to flat earthers and their thoughts on what they believe the earth is, its shape, its geometric location, whether or not it's actually a plane, a realm, or just a sphere. I believe the earth is round. I believe that the evidence pointing towards it being round is a lot more damning than the evidence pointing towards it being flat. Other people have great deals of what they believe it is, and that's up to them and their choice to believe what they want. I was often studying the psychological dissonance between Gen Z and their humor, and I noticed that when you look at humor like Twitter humor or Instagram Reels humor, it took a while for me to understand it or study it, but once I came down to it, it's that Gen Z's humor is post-irony. Similar to a postmodernism, it rejects the reality of the situation to ironically make fun of it. So for your average Gen Zer, reality is the joke, but it's also ironic at the same time, post the joke being relatable. It's an interesting concept, but once you understand that, that also similarly ties to the rejection to modern day science. For example, I was on TikTok earlier and people were actively commenting that the earth was not round nor flat, it was a realm, and or that it just continues forever, or that there's an ice wall, or that there's a firmament. And this dissonance is a part of the Dunning-Kruger, and it ties to confirmation bias, where people believe that they have the inner special knowledge, which comes from communal aspects. So those who often and actively confirm the bias that the earth is flat or a realm or not circle actively partake in this unspoken undertone of communal rejection from modern day science. And I think this is also tied to the decline in literacy, the decline in education, and the decline in individualism and individualistic personal opinion. Some people allow others to impose what they should think or believe. And I am a victim of this myself. I often do say things that I may believe to be true. And this can be from the opinions of others, which affect others, and it continues. But I think the objectifying fact is to not let the fluster cloud your judgment. Letting the minority represent the majority is justice not served. And I think that postmodernism is effectively that. Another one I've been thinking about is Stoicism. It's basically the thought that you shouldn't let the things that you can't control you. You should only think about what you can control and not let any cosmic phenomena dictate your day-to-day life. And even though that is good, and I understand what he's getting at is to not let the distractions distract you, I do think that when we look at all the technologies that have advanced from questioning the universe, we actually get some astounding discoveries, like the start of quantum physics, or Velcro, styrofoam, memory foam, pillows. Remember, most of the technologies we use day to day, or a lot of the technologies, came from science, came from NASA, came from trying to be better, try to go to the moon, or try to explore space. So I don't think that you should let existential cosmic phenomena distract you, but I do think it is interesting to ponder every now and then, almost like a memory exercise. I think it's important because importance is not just about science, but it's also about discovery, change, and creation. I'm a firm believer in that creation is the ultimate purpose of life, and you are meant here to create. When you don't create, you end up depressed. I think creation, or interacting with life in some capacity, is your ultimate being's existence's purpose. Kind of a fucked up sentence, but you get what I mean. I think creativity is something that everyone possesses, but not everyone can channel that signal. It has to come from within, from what the brain wants to be, not who it thinks it is. Because the brain doesn't know itself. The brain doesn't think it knows. The brain doesn't even think. The brain just thinks. The brain just has thoughts. It processes thoughts, but the brain doesn't know to think. So the brain is constantly trying to understand what it is. And a great example of it is the brain named itself. How can the brain name itself? It doesn't know itself. It's a brain. You get me? It's an interesting fact, interesting philosophy, and I think creation is genuinely the core root to most people's problems. Not creating. When they don't create, they fall short to existence. They don't feel like they're plugged in. And creation is a fundamental for life. You have to create. You have to create. And the last one is absurdism. The fact that if life is a nihilistic, no meaningless light matrix simulation, the things that are absurd that do happen, we should embrace and be grateful that we have lived to be able to experience them. I think many people's unexpected burden is that you can experience suffer. The fact that we are born to suffer is important. The fact that we're born to suffer is why it feels good to exist in the first place. If all you ever had was good days, how could you ever know what a bad day feels like? If all you had was bad days, how could you ever know what a good day feels like? I think those are the two coinciding differences in both of these philosophies. They're important and they matter. Things are often absurd. You may not realize it. You may not think it. You may not even understand it. But the absurdity is what breeds catastrophe, and catastrophe breeds chaos. I think if you wanted to, you could almost say everything is absurd. It's absurd that I'm talking to a camera right now. It's absurd that absurdity is even a word. It's absurd that we exist. It's absurd that somebody made this phone. Everything is absurd when you really think about it. So there is no real scale what you can deem absurdity, and just to live and enjoy the experience. Those are just a few philosophies I've been thinking about the past few days. And that's my conversation and thoughts on them. With that being said, all my huggers and kissers out there, hope you're doing good, feeling lovely, sexy, beautiful, adorable. And I will see you all when you're older. Peace.